history and what you've done with some of the classes in the past. So when you're ready, you're all set to go.
Great. How are you guys? Good?
You're that good? Okay.
You've had lunch. You're settled and ready. There's a lot of people here. Wow. Do you hear me loudly enough on this mic? Do you hear this? You do? Okay, good. All right. I am going to share my screen so that, well, let's just see how this looks, because I really think it's important to have eye contact, even if it's fake eye contact, because you're looking at a wall and I'm looking at a green dot, so it doesn't really connect. But I just want to see if you can see me and this thing at the same time. So let me hang on a second. Share my entire screen. So when I do this, do you see my face also? You have to say something because I can't see you anymore.
Yes, we're all good.
You can see my...
Yep, we're all good. We got your presentation and your face. You're still there.
Okay.
And we'll go to widescreen
and
make it even look better. There we go.
Hang on a second.
There we go. Even better.
Okay. All right, here we are. So you guys, I can't see you now, but I'll pop back and forth so I can actually see you guys, whether you're nodding or like dead asleep or like whatever the heck is going on here. But I know that most of you are seniors. And so you're basically coming to the close of the college journey, the school journey, and saying like, what the hell do I do now? And there's this idea that, by the way, that you're supposed to know. And I'll just relieve you of that fact right now, that no one knows what they're doing when they leave school. There were like 3 people who knew exactly what they were doing, and they went headlong into careers they quit 5 years later, which is not a surprise. Like, not anyone, like college, as you know, is not job training. It's not something you go through, and even when you're learning design, you're learning specific skills. You don't necessarily kind of come out of it and go, oh yeah, totally, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do this. Like, what is that saying? Like, you plan, God laughs. Whether you believe in God or not, you don't have to. You have no idea the path of your career, the path that it will take, no clue. And to me, that's the most exciting part. It's not a straight path. It's winding, and you don't ever know what's around the bend. But there are some things I can tell you that will help you be better equipped to look at what's coming. Things that I really wish someone had told me, namely that I didn't have to know what I was supposed to do, because I was so paralyzed by that fact when I was in your position that I didn't even apply for a job. I went to Boston College. I was leaving, going to school soon, and all my fellow classmates were like running off to the career center to like go do their interviews. I was like, what? No, I'm in denial. I'm not doing any of that. And I don't even know what that means. And I don't know what job to get. And the idea of it was overwhelming. And I get overwhelmed easily. And when I do, I just shut down. So I just didn't do like anything. I did a bunch of other jobs. I kind of floated around. It's okay to float a little bit. You don't have to come out of the gate a total success from the get-go, okay? So let's start there. But the reason why this is called Stop Searching, Start Building is because I consult with brands, right? I mean, I consult on branding with brands, with businesses, individuals and companies, and lots of different people. And while that's not like, okay, college seniors, they're different, it's still, we still ask ourselves the same question. What am I doing, and what should I do to make the best of this time? What should my business be doing? What should it be doing to do better? And guess what? Brands, like lives, you figure out as you go. So let's hit the ground here, running a little bit. And of course, I'm going to leave time for questions. I'm actually going to set the clock for myself so that I don't endlessly talk. Okay. That's my Twitter handle. Feel free to tweet. I don't mind. It doesn't bother me at all. I can't even see you right now. But, feel free to share anything that appeals to you. Here's the advice that no one gives you when you're 19, 20, 21, 32, or 45 for that reason, for that matter. And it's to stop searching for your passion. There's this belief that you're supposed to just find your passion, follow it, and that life will simply fall into place. And for many of you who love design, you say, oh, I'm going to have a job as a designer, and then I'm going to be this, then I'm going to be a creative director. It may go that way, but it might not. And it's not that I don't think you should have a passion-filled life, but the idea of searching for your passion, I think, makes things harder for people than easier. Let me explain. Well, I'll explain it by simply telling you that I think it's lousy advice. I think it's cheap advice. It's cheap advice, whether you hear it from someone who's a lot older than you or you hear it from someone at a cocktail party. Well, you should just follow your passions. Like, oh, yeah, gee, thanks a lot. That helps a lot. I found that advice helpful not at all because it didn't tell me what I was supposed to do next. And I found that frustrating. I found it frustrating my whole life, even though I had lots of things I was passionate about. I just didn't know what to do about it. And plus, I had crippling fear and insecurity. I still do about like what I can do. Would anyone take me seriously if I did this or that or the other thing? I hear you because I was there. And so when I was invited to give a TED Talk, well, they didn't just hand it to me. They said, do you have a TED Talk that you'd want to give? Because we have a spot and someone recommended you. I said yes. And I had a couple in my back pocket. And this was the one that made it in. It's called Stop Searching for Your Passion. I did it a year ago, and I'm thrilled that it has over 1 million views. And that doesn't tell me that I'm so great. It means that I have hit a nerve, that this talk hit a nerve, because a lot of people are like, thank God. And I get emails every day from people all over the world who say, I feel so much better now. You made me feel so relieved that I don't have to have some magical answer for what I'm supposed to be doing. So later, if you feel like watching it, I mean, it's Googleable. You just type in Stop Searching for Your Passion and my name or whatever on YouTube, and it'll come up. But that was the heart of that talk. And I was really thrilled to see it in this book, So Good They Can't Ignore You by Cal Newport. And when I read it, I was like, yes. He writes, conventional wisdom on career success, follow your passion, is seriously flawed. Typo. It not only fails to describe how most people actually end up with compelling careers, but for many people, it actually makes things worse, leading to chronic job shifting and unrelenting angst. True. Why is it dangerous to feel that you need to follow your passion? Well, it presumes that you should know a thing before you know it, like you're supposed to know exactly where you're going or something. It presumes that there's one right path, which there is not. It makes you expect magic immediately, which is unfair and impractical. And it can cause you to quit too soon. I can't tell you how many, this is the plague of the young person who jumps from job to job because this one isn't satisfying, this one isn't fulfilling, and that one isn't rewarding, and I had to go and do this, I had to get the mail, and I had to do some other tasks, and I just want to do meaningful work. That's not how this works. But we've been fed that, and then it kind of goes rotten inside of us. Listen to this. The 2010 Conference Board survey of U.S. job satisfaction found that only 45% of Americans describe themselves as satisfied with their jobs. I'm going to unplug my headphones. Tell me if the sound is bad if I do that, okay? This number has been steadily decreasing from the mark of 61% recorded in 1987. That's a steady drop. That also comes from that book, So Good They Can't Ignore You. What does that say to you? Does it mean we're destined to be unhappy? Why? That doesn't have to be the case. But people are dissatisfied perhaps because of how they have framed their career, how they've thought about it. The way I look at passion is that passion is an ingredient, a potent and powerful ingredient, but it's not the recipe. This is another great book, really much wittier. Like the Cal Newport book, I found a little dry. I didn't finish reading it. Whereas this one, I found funny and really just, he's funny. I mean, he's the guy who created Dilbert, Scott Adams. His book is How to Fail at Almost Everything and Still Win Big. If you want to feel good about where you are, read how many times he failed. He writes, in hindsight, it looks as if the projects I was most passionate about were also the ones that worked. But objectively, my passion level moved with my success. Success caused passion. more than passion caused success. And therein lies the truth of what inspired this talk for me. I read that first, and I was like, that's so true. Because when something goes well, so just for instance, just pretend, I just want to see you for a minute. I hate just looking at this. Just pretend that you were really good at stitching. Like, who cares, right? You like stitch a hole in your shirt, or you stitch something, and you're like, whatever. And someone goes, oh my God, wait a minute. Look at what you just did. That's amazing. I've never seen anyone do that. Would you stitch my stuff? Well, sure. I mean, it's not the big deal. Are you passionate about stitching? No, you did it. And you're like, this is fun. I like doing this thing. Just a little thing you did. And then what if everyone was like, holy cow, look at what Mike did. And all of a sudden everyone was like coming to you going like, you have no idea what you've done for us. Like, this is huge that you could like stitch holes in things. You'd be like, oh my God, here's $100. Here's $500. Here's $1,000. Will you stitch this? You would be so passionate about stitching, you wouldn't even know what end was up. You would be like, oh my God, I'm so awesome at this thing. Like, wow. Do you have to be passionate about string to have a really great career in stitching? This is a stretched metaphor, I know. But you see what I'm saying? When you realize how valuable that is to people and they're willing to pay you for it, I promise you will be more passionate than if you were like, hey, you guys, I can juggle. I'm so passionate about juggling. Look at how well I juggle. You want to watch me juggle? Everyone's like, no, dude, we don't care that you can juggle. But I need to make money doing this because I'm so passionate about juggling. We're like, go juggle. Have fun. Just because you like doing it doesn't mean anyone else gives a crap or that anyone's going to pay for it. This doesn't mean you're doomed to do something mundane. Not at all. Many of you are design students, right? You're there because you want to create things. You're already on a path having a really rewarding career. My fear is this idea that what you want to do, somehow everyone has to pay you for because you care about it. Very important distinction. Let's move on. Now, check this out. This woman's name is Amy. I could never pronounce her last name. It's like Renewski or something. Amy Renewski is like a sociologist. She's a PhD. She did a study of college administration assistants, right? So you go down to your office at that school, the people who are working as admins in the office. She picked that job because it wasn't like a horrible job, but it also isn't, like, ooh, I design Coke ads or something, right? It's just like a job. She wanted to know who in that role considered their jobs just a job, meaning they just did it for the money, a career, which means they've been doing it and they see it as a career, or a calling. And when I say calling, what calling means, that has a lot more weight to it. You know what I mean? And so she did a study. I don't know how many. I don't have the details of the study here, but that was the object of her study. So she wanted to know. Now, you might go, well, obviously it's just a job. I mean, who would be passionate about being an admin assistant? That's so boring, right? I mean, I've been an admin assistant. It was not the most exciting job. Here's what she found out. Whoops. A better job does not equal more passion. You know why? Because the strongest predictor of the people who described their career at such and such school as an admin assistant, the people who described it as a calling, the strongest predictor was not whether they loved typing. It wasn't whether they liked sitting at a desk. They were the number of years on the job. That was what determined how likely they were to call what they did a calling. Does that mean the person who was an admin for 15 years was just thrilled with the work? Not necessarily. But when you looked at people who called it a calling, the greatest predictor of that description was the number of years. What does that tell you? It means that it's not about the job. It doesn't mean that the most creative job is the most fulfilling jobs. I know a lot of people in creative jobs who want to jump out a window. Like, those things aren't correlated. It's important for you to know that because you're in a creative field. Oops, hang on. I'm not done with her yet. What this means is, and we'll get to this in a bit, that now go talk to the person who's been out of school for 3 years as a graphic designer and has changed jobs 10 times. I guarantee you that that person doesn't necessarily feel a calling yet, or may be very unhappy, but you're like, but I don't understand. You're getting paid to be a designer. Why isn't that the best thing ever? Because they haven't allowed themselves to get good at a thing. And that is your job for the next few years when you get out of school, is to get good at a thing and many things. This idea that you have to have the perfect job, that the job has to make you happy and fulfilled and all these things, and that if not, you're going to be miserable. That's not true. By the way, you might have to take jobs. You might not get your dream job, chances are you won't, right out of the gate. You'll get a job that's like designing like insurance brochures, and you'll be like, it's not the best thing ever, and maybe you'll feel kind of lousy about it, and you'll go, oh God, is this it? I felt that way in my 20s. I felt like I remember driving, I lived in Massachusetts, and I remember sitting at a light being like 22 and thinking, I don't really know what there is to look forward to. I was doing admin work, and I was like, I don't even know what I'm doing. I get that like depth of despair. Now I feel like I have more to look to excitedly than ever. The only difference is I'm a lot older now. So I want to tell you about this guy, Kabir Sehgal. I've met him personally at a friend of a friend. He is a tall, handsome, debonair, total sweetheart, brilliant guy. It's like he's a unicorn. But let me tell you a little bit about him. He's a full-time JP Morgan employee. He got a job in like finance, like in developing financial markets. Don't ask me what that means. He also happens to like to write. He's a writer. And he's a jazz bassist. He loves playing jazz music. He has lots of good things he likes to do. Oh, also happens to be a Grammy Award-winning producer, a New York Times best-selling author of books, several books. Are you guys kidding me? I almost fell over. We were at a networking breakfast and we were going around the room saying what we did. Guess who went after him? Me. I was like, oh, great, Kabir. Like, I want to go after you. And here's the thing that's fascinating about Kabir. He has had a full-time job the entire time. You know, when people say, well, you've heard a lot of people, you probably hear a lot of people say, I just want to quit my job, my horrible 9-to-5 job, so I can go be creative and be a writer and try to make it as a writer. Kabir has made it as a writer, but he has never quit his job. He likes his job. He's made the job. He found the right fit for him. It sounds like a buttoned-up job, but his job in emerging markets allows him to travel the world. And guess what he did? Wrote the book while he was working without telling anyone, and used the time when he was traveling to actually find research, like do research for the book. So when it came time to doing the book, he didn't have to go to his boss and go, I think I want to leave. I've got to write this book. It's my calling. He goes, hey, boss, I just want you to know, I have a book deal in the works, but it won't interrupt anything because I've already written the book. It's already done. And yeah, boom, mic drop, coined. That's the book. Best-selling author. Oh, and he likes playing jazz, so he wrote a book about jazz. And he has created award-winning music just on his own time. Won a Grammy this year. I don't know anyone like him. So we cannot hold ourselves to Kabir standards, okay? I'm not holding you to that. I'm certainly not holding myself to that. But my point is, he said, I wouldn't quit my job. Why? He goes, I don't have to beg for money. I don't have to ask people to fund my project. I fund my own stuff. And I got to admire that because he said, it's really smart. Why? I'm not beholden to anybody. Right? Right. So let's talk about branding for a sec. Actually, let me pause for a second. Does anyone have questions about any of this stuff? Or do you want to got any questions? Anyone? You're cool? All right. We'll keep going. Okay. Just, Nick, you flag me. If anyone has a question, I'm happy to stop for a second. So let's talk about brand for a sec. One of my favorite topics. And at the same time, it makes my skin crawl because branding is like everything and nothing. Like it means everything and it means nothing. And so let's talk about what it means for you right now. A colleague friend of mine describes it as branding is the style in which you contact the world. I love that. I love that definition. I think it's a good one. It is your style. I do think there's a little bit more to it than that. For instance, as I was saying, Coca-Cola. This is a brand that's probably one of the most well-known in the entire world. But when you think about what that brand is, it doesn't stand for brown bubbly water. it stands for what it means to be American. It's about being free, right? It stands for something more. But what it is basically toxic poison water that will give you diabetes, right? Like, it's not the best thing ever for you. But we would sooner die than let someone take it away from us, right? That brand has a lot of stock in it, like literally has meaning. We are not products in that way, but doesn't mean we can't create our own brands. And they don't have to fit on a can. Okay, that's the thing. We're humans. We're multifaceted. Take, for instance, this is how I describe. When most people, when I act, because I consult with a lot of people about their brands, and when I ask them to say who they are, they give me a lot of this. Oh, I'm a this, I'm a that, I'm a writer, I'm blah, 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 blah. They give me a million descriptions, just like this, a pile of eyes, nose, ears, a hat, mustache. And I go, great. And I walk away. And when I see them again, it's like that blank face. I don't remember the right jumble of stuff they are. Usually one thing will stand out. But I usually am like, someone goes, what's that person do? I go, I don't know. I think they do something with social media, but she's also like a juggler. I don't know. Like, because most of us feel compelled to tell someone, oh, here's all the things I do, because we want them to be impressed with us, right? So it's hard to remember this guy, but it's not hard to remember this guy. No one forgets that face. You see that guy at a party, you're like, hey, what's up? Like, you know him because he has a certain style. He's a certain way. You know where his features are. It's no different than a brand. A brand you are familiar with. A brand is your interface with the rest of the world. And yes, it is kind of your face, but it's also other stuff too. So what is it? What is your brand and why does it matter? Well, the way I think about it is it's what you do and it's how you do it. Now, you're all very young. You don't know yet what your brand is. I didn't even know what the hell I was going to do every day. So you don't have to figure this out right now. You will evolve. And my brand today is different than it was 6 years ago and way different than it was 6 years before that. I was practically a different person, and not just because I had a series of bad haircuts, but because I've changed and evolved, and so will you. But there's a certain style behind what you do. If I took one of you, and 5 years from now, you're no longer a designer, you're a lion tamer, you're going to have some of the similar things. The way you attack design is the way you're going to attack lion training. So that part of it doesn't go away so much. I think of brand in terms of 3 things. It's not in any book yet. It's how I think of it. It's your brand promise. Right? It's the promise of what someone expects to get from you. If you're the kind of friend who is never on time, who flakes and never texts people back, and you say you're coming, you don't show up, your promise is, I won't be there for you. I might not be there. See, it could be by default. You're like, no, I don't want to be seen as that person. But your actions have a lot to do with how people see you. Your promise isn't just lip service, right? It's how you show up for things and what you promise to deliver. And as you get to know who you are in a professional sphere, that's going to become more and more clear. It's also your presence. It's how you are to be around. Are you like a really quiet and real serious, heavy, or kind of artsy, just kind of chilled out? Or are you like me? You're like, I'm a certain kind of presence to be around. I can be chill too, but usually I'm just like this. It's who you are in the moment. And it's also, most importantly, your practice or the thing you do every day. How are you every day? The practice, how you act determines, it adds up to what that promise is, right? Like they say, how you do one thing is usually how you do everything. So those are the things you want to keep in mind. And sometimes you got to ask yourself, what do I make a promise to people? What am I like around? What am I like to be around? What do I do again and again and again? These things all end up fitting together to make a big puzzle, which is you. So that means you're not just a cog in a wheel. And that means you're not going to have just one answer and one thing you like to do. That's why I want to relieve you of the pressure to find the right job too soon, very soon, as in you need to have this happen. You need to have, these are stories we make up. You do need to find a job because you need to support yourself. But there's no right job. There's only the fits that appeal to you and the ones that don't. And actually, a piece of advice that I followed, that was like how my mom told me to pick classes when I went off to school. She said, don't worry about the topics. Find the best teachers. Ask around who the best teachers are. Take whatever they're teaching. I tend to think that way about jobs too. The best relationships and the best experiences I've had at jobs were because of the people in them, obviously. And if you find someone, be like, oh, who's my mentor? Who's my mentor? Sometimes you'll meet someone who's so great and they say, listen, Jen, you're really good. Come work with me for a while. You may go, well, no, my passion isn't retail, so I can't really do that. It's like, you could learn a lot from someone. You're going to learn more from a person. You're going to learn everything from another person. So don't be too quick to think this certain job has to fit perfectly. As I said earlier, give yourself a chance to get good at something, even if it's a thing you don't want to do later, you know? Like I got good at some things that I didn't necessarily want to do. I got good for a while, I forgot now, at editing my own videos in Final Cut. I could start to move through them pretty quick, but I realized it was tedious. It was smarter for me to outsource that. So now I'm like, I forget kind of how to do it. But I got good at it enough that I enjoyed mastering it. And now I know how to edit with someone. I know how to tell them what I want because I know how to do it. Don't be afraid of, I can't believe I'm going to use this phrase, but apply yourself. I hate that I said that, but truly allow yourself to strengthen the muscles to be good at something. And echoing the point I made about not searching for your passion, rather than search, because then how do you know what you're searching for? Really think about what it means to solve something. It feels good to solve something, to do a thing that you know you can do, even if it's not your favorite thing to do. Sometimes I'll find I'll do things I get paid well to do, even though it's not my very favorite, but because it is so rewarding to make someone else so happy, or to like do a thing that gets paid, like I get paid for, that I'm like, wow, this was so helpful. Don't underestimate how valuable that is. This is advice you've heard before. It bears repeating. Be curious and take initiative. I'm telling you, at any job you're in, it's not going to be whether you're the best designer ever or the best creative professional ever. They're looking at you like the new guy or the new woman. And what they're going to be most impressed with is what you decide to take on your own. There's a lot of new people at jobs and they sit around and wait for someone to tell them what to do. Interns, the same. What do you want me to do next? What should I do now? Sometimes you do need to take direction, but the people who are winners, they don't wait. They anticipate. They say, they look at who they're working for and they go, looks like you're stuck doing a lot of stuff. Do you want me to help with that? Even if it's not the thing they really want to do. They find those things. When I find someone who anticipates my need, I'm talking someone who works with me or for me, a vendor, someone I pay who's good at what they do. When they anticipate need, they're in. I hire them over and over again because they initiated, they figured out what I needed and thought for me. That is so critical. You do that. I don't even care if you don't want to stay at that job. You try to do that at a job and kill it, and then you try to leave, and they'll be like, no, please, we'll pay you more. It's so hard to find people who do this. I'm telling you, it's the best skill. And as I said, don't expect work right away to fulfill every single need, and then you won't resent the work. I mean, I assume at this point some of you had dated and been in dating relationships. How does it work when you're like, he isn't making me happy enough. She doesn't make me joyous. Like, that's not really our job as humans to like make each other happy. We're supposed to make ourselves happy. It's great to share that with someone. But when you expect your job to make you happy, you better go tell a person you expect them to make you happy. That's about the result you're going to get. That resentment builds up. It's okay that you're new in your career. And I wish someone had said that to me because I was like, I'm so new and no one would hire me because I'm too new. So I didn't apply for anything. What was I thinking? I should have gone there and been like, hey, I can learn anything. I wish I could go back to do that for myself because, man, it's a great position to be in. In fact, your choices are more limited as you get older because then there's things you won't do and there's money you won't do it for. And you know too much. At my age, I know too much. Way better to be in your position. So make sure you take advantage of it. And please, please, please do not treat your job like a parking spot. This is what people do. They pull into a parking spot, job, they go inside, They come out 5 years later and they don't remember where they parked the car and they have no idea where else to go. Sometimes you get asked to leave. It happens. I got laid off once. Yeesh. If you treat it like a parking spot, you just parked it there and you're like, I have a job, so I guess I don't have to try anything anymore. Wrong, 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 wrong. You know, like a lot of people say, you have to be thinking about your next job the minute you get your current job. All right, that's good advice. I don't really do that, but I do think, how can I continue to be moving along? They're not points like this on a map. You're growing through one job to the next job. If you don't, you have nowhere to go. That is the definition of stuck. As I said, day jobs have an unfairly bad rep. As they keep you trapped. We've all had jobs. There's nothing wrong with having it. Maybe you'll decide to go in on your own and be an entrepreneur. Terrific. And then you'll go back into the workforce and you'll come out again. There's no shame in that. This is another guy you want to check out. He is super brilliant. Ramit Sethi, creator of the Zero to Launch program and the Find Your Dream Job program. And he's made a lot of money. He's also best-selling author and all of this stuff. But as he says, most of my students still have a day job. A lot of them are planning to quit as soon as they make enough money to replace that income. But I also have plenty of students and a number of employees who make more than enough on the side that they could quit whenever they wanted. So why haven't they? It's not fear of going out on their own. It's that they found their dream job. Dream isn't necessarily like perfect. There's no perfect thing. But as I'm saying, when you're making money and you're gaining from that community, there's a lot to learn there. It doesn't mean like, oh, how long do I have to do this till I can leave? But in fact, by the way, I work for myself. I have for 6 years. Yeah, so coming on 6 years. And I got to tell you that the reason you also don't want to be parked in a spot is because that's not your spot forever. Things move and change a lot. And you need to, in the era of at-will employment, you need to keep filling that need in order to justify your place there. So it's not a given that you just stay forever. That relationship is key. You need to be able to bring big-time value to the table. So you're always trying to, the same entrepreneur mindset, since I'm sure you're all very tuned into that, they're like the rock stars of our era right now, like entrepreneurs. They're forever proving that they're worth their clients and prospects and customers money, right? You do need to do that on your job too. The difference is when you're at a job, you do it for one person instead of like me, like 5 people at a time. Here's a little note, by the way, for resume, LinkedIn stuff. Resumes, a lot of jobs, of course, they still take resumes, but LinkedIn, it should be updated. Look, there is no excuse for you not to have a good picture of yourself there. And not like shirtless at the beach, it's like LinkedIn is an office space, right? If you want to get paid by corporate clients and get jobs in places where people have budgets, you need to be on LinkedIn. And if I'm granted, maybe a lot of you haven't had full-time work yet, where you've been in school, but when you look at your stuff, you've had little jobs here and there, this project, that project, those are real projects. And I should be able to, reading your LinkedIn profile, have a sense of what you did for this person, not just that you did a task. Hear me again. Your LinkedIn profile should not be a list of tasks like filed papers, answered phone, created brochure, design logo, blah, blah, blah. Like, okay, fine, you design a logo. Design a logo to do what? Your brand is showing the impact you had. So if you said, the top of mind example I always have is like, I designed and streamlined this client or this company's design digital footprint, or their design image should be consistent across all social media platforms to help them do what? Always be aligned with the goal of the company you work with, because anyone can design a logo. It's whether you understood the needs of that company. Again, just like anticipating need. So when I look at someone's resume, if it reads like I could take that resume and post it as a job opening, must do these things, then it's a job listing. It's not saying what you did. Think about that when you're writing up your stuff. This guy, what time is it? This guy's name is Jeff Greenspan, and you can check him out. He's had a lot of viral videos. I bet you might have even seen some. He created these hipster traps in Manhattan. He was a really resentful, unhappy writer for a long time. And then because clients wouldn't let him do what he wanted, what he thought was the most creative thing, like they wouldn't let him. Well, then he's like, what the heck am I doing? If I want to create something, I'm going to create it. So he started making things. He made videos. He did art projects, things that got attention, things that, by the way, got tons of press. He went from being a copywriter and a creative director to being a viral video genius, a disruptive thinker. He was even tapped to be a creative person at BuzzFeed and Facebook, not because he was just a good doobie and being a good copywriter, but because he went outside of the box of that. And since you are, many of you, budding creative professionals, you should know that the work you do, when you're not busy trying to make your workaday stuff be your passion project, you can be creating your passion projects on the side and making them something that people be interested in. And by the way, that adds a lot of value to what you have as a contributor to a company. I want to pause here and take some questions because I've been talking long enough. It's been 31 minutes. You've had a lot to take in here. I want to stop sharing my screen for a sec. And I want to hear from you where you feel the most stuck. When you hear me saying these things, I'm telling you a lot of stuff. You won't remember half of it. Tell me where you're the most frustrated or worried. Raise a hand and tell me your name. And I guarantee you guys all have the same fears. I probably share them too. Excuse me. Hang on. I'm going to put my headphones in so I can hear you. One sec. Who's got something for me?
There's a struggle between doing what's kind of expected and what makes you happy. Like, how do you, did I ask it right?
Are you talking about in the context of a job or?
Yeah, something stable or something that you're happy
Again,
with.
I don't think you have to choose.
Yeah.
Look, if you are in a position where you can afford to do watercolor all day and not have to worry about a job, more power to you. But I'm thinking that you need to make some money. What this means is not that you have to go work on a garbage truck, although those guys get paid pretty well. Again, don't make this about, should I do what was stable or do what makes me happy? Your job is not to make you happy. It's your job to find happiness in a place, like I said. And you're also saying that something sturdy and stable can't make you happy. So this tells me that you don't want stable work. Maybe you want to be a freelancer from the get-go. Then if you like exciting and irregular and different, you better also be happy with not always knowing if this was going to be a good month or a bad month. It's to what degree can you sustain uncertainty? Can you physically, financially handle it? Some people do not do well with that. They want a steady paycheck. They cannot. In fact, that stress of not being sure where money's coming from shuts down your creativity. To a point, it might inspire it, but at a certain point, it can shut you down. So I don't see it as stable versus happy. By the way, nothing's stable. Nothing is stable. There's no guarantee you're going to have your job. So you find a way to make yourself happy. Someone else?
For a job. The fear is just,
you will never get over that fear because I am not over that fear and no one I know is over that fear. However, with mastery comes some confidence. You don't know anything yet. That's okay. When someone hires you, do you think they hired you because you know everything? It's not why they hire a 22-year-old person or a 19 or 20-year-old person. They don't hire you because they think you're going to come and enlighten everybody. Oh, don't go in there thinking that. Far better to recognize that you're there to learn, right? Far better to realize you're there to learn. Are you afraid of learning? I doubt it. I think you're afraid of people rejecting you or thinking you're not good enough. That fear, don't get over it. Use it. Use it to motivate your best work. We are animals that are attuned. We have a natural built-in negative bias. We naturally listen for negative stuff. Bad news sticks to us. Bad gossip sticks to us. one word of criticism in a room full of praise, you'll remember. That's because we are not taught, forgive me, it's in our bones to be aware of that threat of being left out and hungry and abandoned from the tribe. That's a real fear, and it will serve you if you know how to use it. I use that fear to make sure that I don't just sit here hoping work comes to me. Sometimes my bank account dips a little low, and I'm like, whoa, what is happening right now? And I get real inventive. I'm like, where can I bring value? And you say, but I'm so young, I don't know how. Your value is in your energy. You're millennials, right? Are they still calling you that? This age, I guess. Here's what you bring. Millennials, your reputation in the workplace is that you don't want to do boring tasks and you want everything to be meaningful. I say employers should harness that and make sure that you're part of the meaning of the work. I mean, that's important. But yeah, you're going to have to do some tasks you don't love. Grin and bear it and do it. And find every opportunity to show what you can do. Take on work, help people out. No one gets passed over like someone who's bored, disengaged, and couldn't give a you know what. Those people aren't going anywhere. So don't worry that you're afraid. That fear, that imposter syndrome, that's at the root of what you're afraid of. Oh God, I'm not a real designer. I'm not a real this. I still have that from time to time, but I had it worse when I was younger. What I've learned and read is that, by the way, the most successful people, the highest achievers suffer from imposter syndrome. You know who doesn't suffer from imposter syndrome? Mediocre people. It's true. For people who are like, it's fine, everything's gonna be cool, I'll be good. I envy those people because they actually don't worry and they actually don't achieve quite as much. So if you're nervous about it, you should be real happy because it means you're an achiever. You don't want to numb that. Why would you anesthetize that? Never, ever do that. But at the same time, if you're having trouble sleeping and you can't function, you should see a doctor.
Anybody else? Come on, there's got to be tons of questions regarding the next
Please, you all have a question. I'm going to start calling on people because I see you. What gives someone an edge over another person?
The competitive edge, because everyone's competing for the same thing.
They're not. You guys don't all want the same job. This idea, by the way, I hear that a lot because I am around a lot of female entrepreneurs. That's like the world I'm in. I don't even really call myself an entrepreneur at all, but that's the world that I'm around. And we all do a lot of the same thing. We're all branding people. We're all this, blah, blah. And sometimes I get a little like, I get nervous too. But then I realize if I were able to have all the business in the world, I don't want it. Do you know how many people you could actually help in a day, in a week, how many jobs you can do? We are humans limited by space and time. You can't handle all the business. You can't. So don't worry that there's not enough. That's a scarcity mindset. And the people who have scarcity mindset, who cling, don't share, don't network, are afraid others will get ahead, so they keep things down, they hide job listings, and they don't let anyone get ahead of them. Those people are left out of the most powerful networks. You want to get further? Help your friends. Share your connections. Not with any jerk, but with people you trust. My world is douchebag proof. Like, I do not allow, like, I have a douche filter on my network. And, like, I'm not giving stuff to takers. But I also weed out people who are afraid. Those people get a bad reputation. I don't do that. You give, it comes back. I give, hey, you guys should talk to each other. You should do stuff. Guess what? I'll tell you this. I did an online workshop on helping people figure out what makes them different. And I had someone on there who was terrific, so engaged, so wonderful. And I mentioned a few other writers who could help because I knew I wouldn't be able to help everybody. But I might have helped some of them. Like, I wasn't sure what my schedule would be like. And I must have mentioned another writer. And that writer wrote to me, and she's a friend. And she was like, hey, thanks for sending so-and-so over. And I was like, what? She's like, yeah, she just hired me to do some stuff. And I was like, what have I done? What have I done? I just sent business away. I'm going to be homeless. And I really was like, oh God, what did I do? Should I have not shared? And that woman, that client wrote to me and she said, hey, thanks for setting me up with so-and-so. She was terrific. By the way, I also want to hire you. See the scarcity mindset? Oh, she spent her money with my colleague. She won't spend it with me. Not true at all. People spend money on people they like and they trust. You want to get ahead? Be someone people want to work with. I'm telling you, I will hire people who are not as skilled, but who are easier to work with, because if they're easy to work with, I can help them get better. But if you're a diva and you are, you're out. And the most powerful part of your whole thing, your whole career, everything, it's not your logo, it's not your damn website, it's not your job. You could get laid off tomorrow. It's your network. That network is more valuable than anything. You treat it like gold. You feed it. You can't just take it. It's not an endless ATM. Don't just call people asking for favors. You'll be done. I pay in and pay in and pay into that bank with time, attention. I'll do some things for free for people. I'm supportive of other people. That, if I all of a sudden today lost every client, I had nothing, I could think of 5 people in the minimum that I would reach out to and say, hey, I'm a little bit stuck right now. Would you help me? They wouldn't even question it, because I have put in that time. This is the time you do that. You burn some people now, they'll never forget it. So what makes you stand out and you're competing? Stop thinking you're competing against everyone else. You want to be the best that you are, and the kind of thing, like someone who works with you, woman who just spoke, is different than the one who's going to work with this dude up here with the pencil behind his ear. The person may not want to work with both of you. She might gravitate to one or the other. You have to know that the best work is going to come to you because you're the right fit for that person, and you make sure they know that. Some people don't like me, okay? I'm too much. I'm too brazen. I'm too outspoken. They don't want to work with me. Great. Because this is what I am. I can't be anything else. So goodbye. Go work with someone else. And I'm gonna make sure that I'm the best that people can work with. I'm always honest and forthcoming and generous. Okay? Have I healed that wound a little bit? So you're not going out there thinking you're getting into like the Hunger Games with everybody? Trust me. Take a look around everybody's crappy ass websites. The world needs design. No one knows what the hell they're doing. Trust me, there's work. What about something that you're saying, what do I do when someone asks me this? Or I don't know how to describe what I do. Is there anything like that? Like, do you know how to talk about what you do?
I was just going to bring that up. The whole importance of when you guys are asked, what do you do? And I know it's very young in your career to kind of have a really solid.
You're not going to have.
Yeah, but
Yeah,
you have. But Terri has great. I'd love for you to talk a little bit about how you talk about who you are. And what
Let's talk about that. Yes, I do a million things. This is the way I do it. This is the metaphor I have landed on for this problem. When someone asks you, and look, you're new, you're starting out, it's actually a lot easier. It gets harder as you get older because you've done so many things. And guess what? Most people don't care. They don't want your resume. Don't be annoying and drag them through your whole CV. Usually someone goes, so what do you do? They expect you to hand them a fork, maybe a spoon. They don't want you to pull out the whole dish of silverware. Oh, I do all these things. No, really? Okay. It's cool. I don't need to know all that. So here's what here's some ideas. Let me. Also, like the opposite, like I do this and I do that and I do the other thing. Another thing people do is like, oh, I help souls unite or something. Like they say these crazy things. You don't have to be like that. But you do have to say, you know, that right now you're studying graphic design and you really love, like maybe you love the nonprofit space, or maybe you love dolphins, or maybe you love only doing infographics. As I said, I know a woman from where I met Nick at this design conference. She does infographics and she does more than that, but she leads with, I turn information into art. Now, by the way, that's what all graphic design is, but that's her spin. Oh, cool. What do you do? Oh, it gives people something to say. So when people ask you, what do you do? Describe it as a service, not as just a task. Oh, I'm a graphic designer. The other person's like, and that could mean a million things. So, oh, I'm a graphic designer. I work at a such and such, and we create this. Give them something to respond to. You know, they don't just want a slug. They want you to like say what it is. Give an anecdote. Like recently, we just won an award for the best blah 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 blah. Oh, cool. What was that like? You're standing there at a cocktail party or someone's like kegger or whatever. I don't know where you're going to, but like, give them something to say. Soon you'll be at someone's graduation party talking to someone's Uncle Ed. So what are you going to do? What are you going to do now? Well, I'm thinking I'd like to do this, or it would be really fun to do that. By the way, you should be telling people and get real specific about what you think you'd like to do. Even if you're not sure, come up with 3 things that you like to do and tell people that. Especially when you know who you're talking to. Oh, you're talking to a big media exec, your friend's dad? I think I would say I would love to get into the media business. Oh, really? What do you think? Maybe I could. That's how you get people to help you. You got to give them a handle. Share a success you've had. Lend some insight. Now, this comes when you're older, when you're like having a little bit more experience. You say, well, I found that this is the thing I like about that. Like, they're just trying to make conversation is what that is. Oh, here's some tips to say. Think like a talk show host. When you're in an awkward situation, you're talking to people, ask questions, open-ended questions, listen for things they say, hand it back to them.
I think we're trying to.
Consequently,
We're not sharing your screen just yet. Let's see.
Oh.
Oops. Yeah, it's been loading for a little bit, so let me go to.
Oh.
Let's see.
This whole time?
Oh, no, just past 5 minutes.
Oh, that was all the slides. So do you see anything now?
No, it's still spinning, so that's okay. I think it might be.
That's
okay.
It doesn't matter.
I figure
it's not important.
Let's do a few more minutes, and then we'll open up for any last questions, and we should be.
Yeah, that's it. Okay. I mean, those are just some examples. Oh, damn. I wanted to show you that. Oh, well. Anything else? What other questions you have?
Last chance. Anything else? Resumes, interviewing, LinkedIn. Are you all on LinkedIn? Yeah. Any questions? Yeah.
You better put your face up there. I don't talk to people who don't have their pictures up.
For the application process of grad school, any tips or things to help stand out on that issue?
Well, I applied to grad school and it was for writing, so obviously I had to write a good essay, right? I don't know, depends on what, I assume you're going to be going for some kind of art-related thing. Make sure that you don't write stuff in your essay that sounds like someone said it already. Stay away from cliches. Use real stories. I mean, this comes down to like essay writing 101. Make sure you're really you. And not what you think they want to hear. And, a lot of people are like, well, I just really want to like better mankind. Like, don't give people lines. Everyone sees through that. I read that essay. I'm like, boring. If you're not riveted by that essay, no one else is either. So make sure it's not like, how do I stand out? You stand out because you're different, but you don't realize what's interesting and different. If you are a designer, but you used to like ride horses, I want to hear about that story. Apply your life. There's no superlative or fancy word that's going to make me interested in you. You will make me interested in you. That's the key. I wish people could see how interesting that their lives could be, but I think that you don't yet. Take something you've struggled with and talk about that. Like, here's how I struggled. Here's what I think I want to do. Those people with really like distinct voices are the ones that stand out.
Anybody else? One more question? Yeah. Yeah, I can hear you. I can proceed. Better to boost yourself up or be pretty straightforward when it comes to how you write about yourself on LinkedIn?
Please don't ever be a BS artist. Like, if I read your stuff and it sounds like you're full of, like, please. It's not a matter of boost up or be normal. Your normal is good. Think of value, not puff, not puffing up. Look at mine. Look at my LinkedIn. I mean, look, you can look at it. There's a story in there. Make sure there's a story. Just copy what I did, basically, in your own words, in your own life. I said, here's what I did. Here's who I am. Here's why I think this is worth looking at. Don't ever fake. Be real, but don't undermine it. When someone goes, oh, this is interesting. Oh, well, that was my brother-in-law's job. He just gave me that job. Don't put things down. They have value. See the value for what it is and share that. Don't fake and blow things up, blow smoke. We all can smell it.
All right. Anything else? All good? I think we're good. I think we're all set. Thanks, Terri.
Cool, you guys. Thanks so much for your time. Appreciate it. Come on over if you want to hear more from me. I do share newsletters on occasion with stuff that I'm doing, stuff that might be applicable and useful to you. It's at territrespicio.com and at Terri T on Twitter. Awesome. So I hope to hear from you.
Thanks so much, Terri.
Thanks, guys.
All right.
Okay,
Thanks,
bye.
guys. All right.